shalom, Zion. So I was just telling y'all how hot it was. And right when I was getting ready to make my point in the last video, the phone just cut off. Man, I'm just talking. All of a sudden, I just see a black screen. I said, oh, the heat. So, this one is going to be, I had to turn the fan on, and hopefully that'll give me some more time to finish this thought. And the thought is wisdom, and wisdom crying out, how long? Previous videos, I mentioned the fact that wisdom is personified as a woman. And the reason why is because a woman should be attractive to a man, and the man has a natural attraction to the woman. That is, according to our culture, the Hebrew Israelites. So, anyway, wisdom is crying. So, I wanted to remember to say this because I was kind of on a roll, and that is, wisdom is the Torah. All right, so that's something that you always have to keep in your mind, that the wisdom is the word of Yah, that wisdom is the instructions that Yah has given us, and that of course is all over the scriptures. I mean, you can find that wisdom is the Torah, is the word of Yah, is the laws of Yah, the instructions of Yah. All of that is Yah's wisdom, and wisdom should be attractive to us, and therefore wisdom is calling out, which is another way of saying that Yah is crying out to us, or another way of saying that the Ruach is crying out to us. Because as I mentioned in several videos, and I got another one coming up real soon, where I'm going to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that whenever we see what you all call, or what the Christian church now calls the Holy Ghost, he's not a ghost, number one, and what they call the Spirit is not a ghost. The Ruach is the proper terminology. The proper terminology of the Ruach is the breath of Yah, and the breath of Yah is actually Yah's word. So so to explain the proverb, then you'd have to do that. You'd have to do exactly what I did to understand it. Oh, okay. He's using a woman as he personifies or makes a person out of wisdom, for the simple fact that she's crying to a man, and he should be able to hear wisdom and be attracted to wisdom. And one of the things that's interesting in this passage is that once we realize that she's crying, the very next thing that's obvious that we need to ask is, what is she crying? What is she saying? Not crying like crying tears, but yelling to the top of her lungs. What is wisdom yelling? What is wisdom crying out to the Israelite, to the covenant people? And I'm going to give it to you. First thing that wisdom cries out is, how long? Now, it must, to answer her question, it must be long. Why? Because we're still making that same cry today. How long? How long what? We use simple ones. Really, actually, how long, you simple ones? Or how long, you simple folk? You simps. How long are you going to love simplicity? Like, what is it about simps and simplicity? When are we gonna rise above that? Is what he's saying. And the next level is even deeper. Basically, using the same type of language. How long will you scorners? And remember, the scorner is one who makes fun of Torah, who turns his back on Torah, who has has delight in saying things like the law's done away with, and we don't have to do that no more. So it's like you scorn the law by believing that you are somehow detached or having an attitude or holding the law, the Torah, in contempt, or having a disdain for the law. And so that is a scorner. Scorners are always going to be around scorning those who are trying to keep the Torah. Man, I know y'all ain't still trying to do that. Man, I know you don't believe this. I know you still don't believe that. That's a scorner. And the third level is the fool. And of course, we know that the Torah teaches us what a fool is. And one of the basic definitions, Hebraic definitions of a fool, is a person who is empty in his head. Therefore, his soul is also empty. So he is Nabal. Y'all know that already. And of course, the idea is he's stupid. He's ignorant. His brain is not functioning right, and he's really very empty in his head. He's empty on the inside, and so there's a person there, but there's nothing inside, and that's a fool. So we have a couple of psalms that literally talk about the fool, and says that it is the fool who says in his heart, Lev, that there is no Elohim, which is there is no Yahuwah. So all people who reject Yah are fools, according to the scripture. Also, everybody, now listen to this, Zion, it's true. Everybody, the Hebraic way of reading that actually says, everyone who says no to Yah is a fool. The fool has said in his heart, no. And the idea is, when Yah tells you to do something, a wise person immediately says yes. It's the fool that says no. And you are really a big fool when you say no to Yah. So the fool has said in his heart, no, not necessarily that there is no English God, there is no Yahuwah, no Elohim. But I mean, but it's kind of the same thing, because to say no to him is kind of acting like he does not exist. And if you think that Yah don't exist, you're a fool. And if you think you can say no to Yah when it comes to him telling you to do something, then you're a fool too. So the idea is wrapped up in both. Not just purely the existence of Elohim, but the fool also says no to Elohim. So what I have to teach the next generation that's coming up is that we cannot make the mistake of our forefathers. So wisdom says, how long will you simple ones? How long, ye simple ones? And then it says, will you? How long, you simple one? So we must know then from that passage that there are simple ones among us. Boy, come on, man. No, I just got to be honest. Some of Zion, and it is unfortunately the majority of us, are very simple. I'm gonna do a research. I'm gonna do a video on what the Hebrew word simple actually means. I'm gonna get into it grammatically speaking, and deal with Hebraic grammar. But for now, I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to show you how there's a form of speech called like a simple form. It's the most simple form that there is. It's the form that everybody can read it and understand it. And so there is this idea of simple that actually means being easy or common or on the surface. It's something that you ought to be able to pick up without anything because it's simple. So certain things are simple because they're just easily seen, easily read, easily understood, easily heard, easily felt. It's very simple. So in dealing with simps, the wisdom is crying out to the simps, not in the positive way of saying something like how simple Torah is to understand, because that's positive, but he's saying how simple people who are simple, which means what? That these are people who have no depth to them. That everything about them is so surface. And you have to be very careful. I see I'm going to go into another video. You have to be very careful, Zion, about being a simp. Because a simpleton, a simple person is a person who has no depth. And therefore, everything about this person is on the surface. So what do you mean, Maury? So let's break that down, because I'm trying to help kings and queens. So to be raised properly as a king or a queen, one very important point that, of course, Uncle Solomon is trying to get us to see is that the outside of a person and the things on the outside are not really that important. That's simple. And there's a lot of people who they don't have any value to themselves. They don't know that they have any value other than what's on the outside. That's a simp. Man, check out my watch, man. Shit, man, nigga, bro, that's Rolex right there, boy. You understand me, man? That watch cost me $180,000. All right, so you got 10 Rolexes. You got over $1 million worth of Rolex watches, but you don't know what time it is. Talk more. I said you got over $1 million something worth of watches, and you don't even know what time it is. That's a simp. Always trying to get a nice, man, my car, man, check out my car, man. This not, man, shoot, man, I got 10 cars, I got 15 cars, I got 20 cars, and don't know where you're going. That's a simp. Your whole life is out there waxing and polishing cars. That's a simp. You're defined by somebody else's name. Rolls Royce, Bentley, Mercedes, Porsche, Audi, all these things, man. Anybody who thinks that they can be defined by something that they drive is a simp. And I'm not talking from a view of a person who ain't had every car. And I've said that on several videos. It don't change whether I'm driving an old bucket, a truck, or a new Mercedes, or a Porsche, or if I had a Bentley. Why? Because I understand I can't be a simp. Simps are concerned about gold chains around their neck. Why? Because that gives them, to themselves, value. Everything is on the surface. They're worried about diamond earrings, diamond rings on their fingers, diamond jewels in their nose, on their mouth, on their head. Why? They call it bling. I got to let people know. I got to let them know I'm doing good, I'm doing well. And you really don't understand that simps operate on those levels. That's a simple level. That's a simple way to trap you into things. It's surface. Real kings and real queens don't even, they have more jewels than anyone on earth, and yet they don't carry none of it with them when they go out. They got warehouses full of jewelry and jewels and things that are real, and they don't flaunt none of it when they go out. Why? Because when it comes to that, they're on another level. When it comes to those kind of things, they have already passed the simple level. And I don't want to get into I'm not trying to get into no arguments or anything like that with people. I'm just trying to show you what simp is and what simp is not. So if you notice people, and of course they have this world, this Babylonian society has for sure made all of our, or I shouldn't say all, the majority of our women today, they have turned them into simpletons, which means that everything is on the surface. So everybody's worried about going to get their boob done, or their behinds done, or their eyes done, or surgery, or their lips done, or their hands done, or their hair done, and that is more important than anything else. I gotta make sure my hair, I gotta make sure my lips, my eyes, my fingers, my toes, my this, my that, right? And nothing on the inside. Nothing. So you see a $2,000 wig on a 20-cent head, a 2-cent head. And you say, what do you mean, Moray? What I'm saying is, all of the emphasis is on the surface, and therefore, the question is, how long are you going to stay like that? When it comes to the men, same thing. Everything is surface. How you look, how you act, what you drive, where you. I mean, all that stuff is important to us. And I'm not saying necessities are not important. So don't soundbite the Moray. What I'm trying to say is, anybody who lives on that particular level of life where those things define who you are a simpleton. I don't care if you are living in the hood, in an alley, or whether you live in a mansion, or whether you live on the boulevard. Doesn't matter. It's a simpleton. And people can always drag you down into simplicity. So what is simplicity? I'm gonna talk about that for a minute, because the question is, how long are we gonna do it? That's what wisdom is saying. When are we gonna snap out of that? And social media fuels that simplicity. It fuels the simp. It fuels the person who is a simpleton. And therefore, the hooks in social media can take certain people and make them stare at their phone all day long and staring at nothing. Or can make them watch an iPad all day long and be watching nothing. Or be on Facebook all day long and seeing nothing. Flipping on Instagram all day long and nothing. And so the question then is, how does a designer have the power to take a nation like Israel and reduce their whole world to Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and other things like that, because the powers that be realize that they have made a nation into simpletons? Just throw them anything, they'll be happy. Just throw them. Tell them that we're gonna give them a day, but we ain't gonna give them no money. We ain't gonna give them no reparation. We're not gonna give them nothing. They don't care. They just want to party. Why? They're simps. So every time the world wants to do anything with us to get us distracted, is they bring things that are very, very shallow and very, very surface. So wisdom, and I'm getting ready to shut this video down, and we'll pick it up. We'll pick up the next one on the next video, since I got this long drive. So wisdom is crying to the to the young man, the young Israelite, saying, don't be a simp. When you move into this world, don't get caught up in being a simpleton. And don't love simplicity, which is you have to get to a point where you got to come up out of that base and ghetto mindset. That low life of living, you have to stop that. Because you are a king. You really are a queen, and you don't even know what the definition of those two things are. What you're really searching for when you're doing your hair and you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on fake hair, what you're really doing is searching for your royalty. But you don't know that. It don't matter how much plastic you put on your head, how many other people's hair you wear on your head, that none of that is going to satisfy the real crown that you're supposed to be wearing. Why? Because you're royalty. So you keep trying to do something to your head. You know you're supposed to have a crown. But because you don't know who you are and whose you are, you become a simp. So instead of them actually recognizing you as a queen, they just throw you plastic hair, fake nails, fake eyes, fake this and that. You already know. And I can deal with the matters of the heart, even with clothes, how the Bible talks about how we are to adorn ourselves. Why? He was saying, because we're not simpletons. We have greater depth to us. Now, moving from basically like the female to the man, when wisdom Christ calls at us, how long are you going to be simple? How long are you going to allow other people to be able to control you with things that don't mean nothing? When you were so sad, you too. Man, I know you joking. You never said it in my face. I bet blah blah blah. Next thing you know, there's wars and fighting and people. And I look at that garbage and I say, it's simpletons. All of them. The question is, how long are you going to stay simple like that? Because you don't have to. You can come out of that. More how? Torah. Now, it might be too late for people my age. I keep telling you that. People my age and say the generation right under me, because we were not taught Torah from birth. We don't know the Bible, so we don't know who we are. We don't know whose we are. We let everybody else define us, and we let other people talking about us really bother us to the point that it will actually start occupying everything about us. And I'll get into relationships in the next one. But for now, dealing with this simple thing, certain things, whether you agree with the moray or not, this is a fact. Certain things, kings and queens have to be above. They have to be above it. The simpletons can handle simplicity. They love simplicity. They don't want to study the Torah. Why? It's too much. It's too easy just to get a Facebook account. It's too easy to just be on Instagram. It's too easy to just play video games. All that simple stuff. It's too easy to just get wrapped up in sports or to just like to talk about nothing. It's a simple life. It's a simpleton. So for the simpleton, let them be simple. That's their thing. But for the king and queen, you can't do that. The king and the queen cannot be a simple person. The king and the queen have to become a very complex and deep and what's the word? You'd have to become a person of depth. You have to develop that which is on the inside of you. The greatest picture of that, obviously, and I can go through a lot of pictures, but the greatest picture of it by far is our king. When you see Hamashiach finally get here, when after all the laws and the prophets, and he is finally given to us according to the scripture, and he dwelt among our people, one of the things that nobody could say about him was that he was a simp. He didn't have a palace. He was a king though, and he knew it. And no matter what people said about him, he never let what people said about him. Man, they called him Beelzebub. He was like, man, that ain't my daddy, that's your daddy. I'm from above. You from beneath. They were like, you was all together, boy, this shit. He said, no, it wasn't, you was. And no matter what the argument against him was, because he knew who he was and whose he was, they couldn't ever like drag him into no crazy, like simp life. Even if it was Herod, he was like, man, I ain't got time for that fox. You go tell that female dog. That's really what he said. You go tell that dog I said, I'm doing what I'm doing. And I could go on with that. Why? Because he wasn't simple. He was dealing with the deeper things of life. And of course, he was dealing with the kingdom of Yah and his responsibility toward the covenant and what he ultimately was going to have to do, which was give himself a ransom for us and allow his blood to ratify the covenant on our behalf. So he couldn't let the simple things pull him, the things of the simple, I should say. The things that normally are there to trap the simple-minded people, that kind of thing couldn't trap him because he wasn't a simpleton. He didn't, like you couldn't pull him off track with anything. Okay, so in the journey of life, the question is, coming from the Torah, how long are you that are simple? How long are you going to stay that way? When are you going to stop that? When are you going to say, I'm tired of living like this. I'm gonna live deeper now. I'm gonna change the way I live and I act. I'm gonna change how I spend my time and the conversations that are stupid that I get involved with, or the arguments that I do, or all these 1,000 different challenges that come up. I feel like I gotta do everything, or just whatever, trying to stay relevant, or putting all of your attention on the outside and on the shallowness of life, while the inside of the person is honestly suffering and suffocating. The real you, and I'm speaking to the kings and queens now, you're more than everything that everybody is saying. And I don't even have to tell you that, but by me saying it, it's speaking to you, because you're a queen. You're just laughing because everybody else is laughing, but inside you shouldn't be laughing at that. You're just going along with the motion because everybody else is, but deep down inside, you're deeper than that. You kings and queens that can hear the more. You know that all this crazy social media gossip and stuff, that's all below you. You're supposed to be in Torah because Yah spoke to you already and told you that you've been chosen to be his royalty. But you just need the more to come forth and speak on it, so that it becomes confirmation in your own heart. And then when you watch everybody else be simple, you be like, boy, I'm so glad I stopped being a simp. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? My next video, I'm going to talk about these scorners. But for now, how long you going to stay a simp? Well, time out for the kings and queens. That answer to that question for you should be not 1 second longer.